This is wait. I'm pretty sure this is the only history that hasn't taken the test yet.
Yeah. So okay. So wait, not this one. This one, yes. Okay. Let's go to game options. I could just probably start the coot. So
Wait, can we have? Don't put friendly name. Like
no, don't. Friendly nickname generator. I tried that in a class and I got
Oh.
super mad because it's like your name was just absurdly stupid.
Wait, let us pick
I
our own
remember that.
names.
Yeah, you can pick your names. Two
either
subjoined.
way, today you guys for the Kahoot, you guys don't have to unmute. You guys can talk.
Yeah, I just feel free to
Cool.
unmute and talk.
This is wild.
I know, right? Extraordinary. Because we join after every game. No. I think that's fine. Introduction instructions. Music is disabled when video. Lobby music. Okay. We won't do that. Okay, that's fine.
Classic.
Okay, boys.
Okay, let me write the code on announcements.
I see you just got rickrolled. Okay then.
Wait, can you go to the screen?
Yeah. Hold up. Wait, shoot. This.
Oh my god. Whoa. um.
Okay. Yeah, good. Oops.
What happened to our?
By the way, is anyone recording this?
Yeah, Laddie. Is Laddie recording all this?
Okay. For 10 or 15. I don't know if people are just busy today or they need like
Shouldn't take
It's up.
Yeah, this stuff might not have been on the content review, so we'll just have to like disregard it, I guess. The Code of the Samurai.
Code of the Cinema. The fuck? Oh, this is. Oh shit. Oh no. It's a long term. Yeah, I just realized I'm dumber than I look. What was the empire that has the Chinapas again?
Aztecs.
Aztecs.
Okay. AP hug.
Is this Unit 1 review?
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah. Well, this is more like period. Like Unit 1, 2.
Oh, okay.
one's kind of hard. Christianity.
Oh.
Yeah, Ethiopia basically. Good.
I didn't read it right.
Take your time. Feudalism. Okay. Post-classical. Yep, it's this one. Like the Vikings and etc. Yeah, basic labor system. Yep. Byzantine Empire.
Wait, what's the difference between the Holy Roman Empire and the Roman Empire?
Holy Roman Empire was like Germany,
Yeah, it's basically
Oh.
just Roman
Actually.
states. It wasn't Roman and it wasn't holy either.
And the leader of them was chosen.
It was like Charlemagne or something, for the most part.
Okay, thank you.
And the Roman Empire was like, all of Rome. Okay, next one. So similarity. Think similarities. Mm.
Will similarity be the same as continuities?
Well, kind of, because like continuity is
Yeah.
only like over time if it's still the
Mhm.
same. But some things can change though, so you
True.
can't be certain. But yeah, both these countries relied on, I guess, free peasant labor for farming stuff. Okay, monasticism. Yeah, it was this one. Like it's
Wait,
not like that important, but like
what's
I think
monasticism again?
Building
uh,
monasteries.
Oh, okay.
yeah, basically. So it's mostly just like these two religions. Although this might not really show up on the test, so I'm not that concerned. Let's see. Okay, the
Elements
Aztec,
of it could though.
Mesoamerican societies. This answer choice. Yep, it's this one. This should be easy. Yep, Buddhism. Yeah, it's mostly technology.
With interactions.
Yeah, it wasn't really religion though because the Europeans didn't really accept Islam, so it was just like they borrowed their technologies.
Well, it's not like borrowed technology. They borrowed like the information, and
Yeah, the
then
information, right?
they innovated new
And that would help
kind
with,
of
like the
technology.
Renaissance later on. Our Confucian principles. What's this called? You should know this. Yep,
I
Billy
hope
Badgie.
I hope you guys know all four the terms mean, because like these terms appeal to like each specific like kind of region in the world. Like the caste system kind of
Mostly
contribute to
India.
like India. The tribute, you could see that in the Americas. The filial piety and mandates of heaven, you see that in China.
They're both in China, yeah.
Yeah.
This also could be like in other places in Asia, like Japan or Korea. Alright, Buddhism. Yep, trading.
I thought it was the Indian
Alright,
trade
10 more
routes.
questions, boys. Yeah, the mandate of heaven. Major influence. Yeah, it's like for these three religions, it's a prophet that they have in common. Oh, this thing. Oh.
I feel like this question's too vague.
Yeah, West Africa, I guess. Not really Istanbul.
It doesn't really have any context clues, and it doesn't have the full picture.
A Muslim group. A new caliphate. What could this be? Yep, the Abbasids. Very important. Inca civilization.
Never mind.
So yeah, basically this is like the geography question. Basically like South America, like modern day Peru. Lots of mountains. Ensure strong control. Yep, the civil service exam. Very influential. Okay, I don't really know this one, so we can just skip this one.
No.
It's not really relevant, so.
Oh my goodness. Ah, why did I click that?
Yep, House of Wisdom. Okay, 3 more questions, guys. Yeah, agriculture, I guess, really important. Yeah, the Black Death had major social consequences on the feudalism in Europe because a lot of people died. All right, last question. A mysticism, Islamic practice. Yep, Sufism or Sufi. All right, we are done.
I feel like it asked a lot about like feudalism, and that's not really on our exam.
Yeah, it's not that like important. All right, congratulations. We have finished this. Vincent, 5th. Okay, so that's it for the Kahoot. Um,
Need more
let's just go
entertainment.
straight into content review then. We are done with that. And yeah, Alan found this new like thing that's really helpful because it's like super condensed. It's very easy to explain, and it's not like really long like the last one. So let's go to let's see. Unit 2, right? Yeah, okay. So networks of exchange. Mostly Unit 2 is just about like, trade routes and the stuff that got diffused around them, like technologies and religion. So as you all know,
I
like
think there's
most
more information up
Yeah,
top.
there's more. That's
yeah, this
think,
is
you
just
know.
like the beginning. Yeah, it's like there's a lot more. But basically, if you want me to zoom out a little bit, I could do that too. Anyways,
That-
so yeah, we got like, technologies like the Latine sail. I mean, this is really important though because like it allowed like ships to sail around different places instead of having to follow the monsoon winds, which were like seasonal winds that would change the course of like where you could sail if you didn't have Latine sails. So like we mentioned last time, like the Muslim merchants would use the monsoon winds to trade places and also to explore other places. Mostly Southeast Asia and India. And also the astrolabe was also pretty important. Like this is an Islamic astrolabe. I'm pretty sure this like would
The
like kind of help you for
compass,
location, or, like direction.
compass, the
Yeah, compass
compasses
is also
was
very important.
another one. Yeah,
And also those things were like some of those things were like, invented in China too, in the Song Dynasty.
maybe
Yeah,
shipbuilding is another possible thing you could say. Like
definitely. Yeah,
how like you could talk about the stir room
host
rudder.
rudder. Yeah,
Yes,
the rudder,
that
the
one.
Latine sail, and
Hmm.
other like like compasses and stuff would help out too. That's like technology. And so we got like trade routes with like in the ocean you would use this stuff. If you were in like northern Africa, the trans-Saharan trade routes, you would not use this. You would use like camels and saddles of the camels, and you'll be transporting like gold, salt, and I guess slaves too. This kind of like becomes more of a traded item later on once like colonialism and imperialism
And
develop. But
when
for
like
now,
the
it's mostly resources.
transatlantic trade routes.
Yeah, the triangular trade, and
Yes.
also like the Spanish and their foothold in like Americas, that would definitely like spur the trade routes for slaves to increase. And so basically, what you can see in the trans-Saharan trade route is most of the people doing the trading are Muslim merchants, and they would bring over goods, from like the Middle East, and they trade with like the local people in like West Africa or North Africa. And like we mentioned last time, West Africa they had a lot of gold. Like the Mali Empire, the Ghana Empire, and the Songhai Empire, they had a lot of gold and like salt, so they could trade a lot of that stuff, like ivory too. And overall, this would be like a very important factor because it would also diffuse like Islam, the religion, and the spread of Islam would cause most of these like kingdoms and empires in Africa to become predominantly Islamic or Muslim. So that's just like a cultural consequence. And let's see.
Basically, like as interaction increases, then you have more cultural yeah. So Islam was major in this trade route, and as interaction of Islam increases, Islam spread more and more.
Yeah, and it's spread like many places all over the world. So it wasn't just like the Arabian Peninsula where it started. So okay, this is about connectivity and the consequences. Now, consequences can be positive and negative. A lot of times people associate consequences with like a negative connotation, but in some cases it can be positive. So in this case, the increased trade between Africa and Eurasia, which is basically Africa, Europe, and Asia, as the name suggests, basically it led to like a lot of literacy and like cultural spread, artistic spread, technological spread, and also intellectual thought because a lot of people like traveling the trade routes would like talk to the people and discuss and debate and have these kind of like hold these kind of discussions. Also, not just Islam spread, also Buddhism and Hinduism spread, and this is mostly in Asia though because of trade routes and connections. Gunpowder and technology, which was mostly it was created in China, it also spread to the parts of the world because of the trade routes. And also another important thing to mention are the traders, not the traders, the explorers of this time period, like Ibn Battuta and Marco Polo. I'm sure you guys already heard of these guys. Marco Polo from
Marguerite,
Italy.
yeah,
Wait, which
Marguerite
one?
Kemp is
Yeah, this person.
is
I
new to the curriculum this specifically this year. So if you want to
I didn't know that person
specifically
existed.
for
I didn't know that.
does anyone know more information about her?
Yeah, does
Because
anyone know
like
this? Because my school didn't go over this, so this is a new term or person. We just know Ibn Battuta and Marco Polo. Because I don't know if they like covered this. Because I mean, realistically, all you gotta know about this person is that they documented their journeys throughout the world, and pretty much like this documentation will be used to kind of like inform people about the other parts of the world. Like Marco Polo, he went to China during the Mongol like dynasties, like the Yuan dynasty, and he would write journals about his ventures in India and China. Ibn Battuta, he was in Morocco, and then he started traveling through all of this Dar al Islam, which is like all the Islamic countries, and he would do the same thing as Marco Polo, which would be documenting his journeys. And these literacy changes would also like kind of inspire other people to visit Asia or to have like a deeper connection with them because they'd hear all these like crazy stories about the emperors and the traditions and the food and whatever and like the culture. They would be inspired to like do more like merchant activity with them. And also crops diffuse because when you have trading goods, it's not just gold, rice, ivory. It could be also bananas and other crops, and also diseases too. Bananas. This is a major game changer for the people in Africa because the Bantu people at first they only subsisted on yams, which is like a pretty average staple crop, but they could only be grown in certain areas, so they had to be confined to certain regions. But now bananas, they can grow them all over the place, and now you can see like a massive migration of the Bantu people, and that's just a pretty cool demographic change. Rice, of course, also spread to the regions, and rice could be grown as a staple crop also, just like wheat. Also diseases because during this time, the Mongol Empire was spreading, and the bubonic plague started in like Asia, and then slowly that got to Europe because of trading and also because of the Mongols carrying the disease with them as they conquered and pillaged European cities. And yeah, that bubonic plague had huge changes because it killed a lot of people, and also like this also affected the social structure of like feudalism because there were less workers and the people who used to have a lot of like peasants and serfs, now they would be lacking a lot of workers and they would need more people to work, and the people that gave the people more power because they had a bigger say in like the societal norms because they had more power as they were more important now. This is pretty much just for unit 2. I mean, that's actually really short. And
Skip the Silk Road.
oh wait,
Yeah.
we didn't go over this yet. Actually, I forgot. So yeah, Silk Roads were very important. There was 3 main trade routes: the Trans-Saharan trade route, the Indian Ocean trade route, and the Silk Road. Silk Road, massive overland trade route, and this would be you would see this become very very like it would fluctuate and be very prosperous over time because you would see like a huge empire that would unite the whole like areas within the Silk Road, like the Mongol Empire,
can I
and
ask
that
something
would just cause like
to what you
a lot
said?
of safety and protection for merchants. Yeah, what was that?
Okay, so you see how these like major cities rose like the Samarkand, Kashgar.
Yep.
These cities are like, uh, okay. Think of the Silk Road. It's not a single road. It's a range of roads, a range of trade routes. And when all these trade route like connects at like a single point, then you can definitely know like a major city is about to rise there, a major trading city. And then during that major trading city, there might be a lot of interaction there.
Yeah, and some important things to like to point out about this picture here is like as you can see in Samarkand, if you look at like the architecture, like the designs, you can kind of see like some cultures being incorporated and kind of like
I
blending
think
together.
the dome is from
Yeah, the domes,
Islam.
like the domes, like that's
Mhm.
pretty like interesting. It's like more of like Islamic world in Europe, while the architecture designs are more of like Asia. So that's pretty cool. And this is kind of like these cities were developed mainly because like the trade route's a very vast trade system, and there's a lot of people going in and out of it. So building like these gigantic cities would be a good place for people like to take a pit stop to like rest or the trade or the talk and stuff. So these cities grew very wealthy and they grew very fast because of the Silk Road and the intensification of this commercial activity. So basically, yeah, you could see a lot of innovations happening where there was like credit systems in place where merchants would use credit in case you didn't want to like have a lot of crap on you like money or trading goods, and also caravanserai were like these huge like markets and also like developed places like cities and uh like like marketplaces where people can
Were
like
they
rest and trade.
no caravanserai? I think it's the thing that like people travel in groups. I'm not sure, but like
Caravan, that's more like
No,
caravans,
that's a caravan.
like
okay,
The caravanserai was it was a
like
Mongol thing.
caravanserai, yeah.
Yeah, it
okay.
was
It's
like
located in
a pit
markets.
stop basically. Oh,
Basically, yeah, you think of it like that, like a rest stop, but it's like more like culturally diverse, of course, because there's more people coming from different areas and lots of goods are being exchanged. People are resting, and also diseases spread easily because you were basically sleeping next to animals, and the animals could have diseases and stuff and fleas. So this is like a high risk, high reward kind of thing. But it was pretty cool because like it because of the trade routes, this facilitated the growth of these caravanserais. And like Alan said, most of these people who are trading, they would travel in groups or caravans because they wanted protection from people who might be like raiding them or stealing their goods, like thieves. And this is because like they want protection. And once Genghis Khan would unite most of this area that was under the Silk Road, a lot of people there would not need that protection because the Mongols would provide it for them, and that would facilitate further growth and trading activity. And like we said, Samarkand and Kashgar, these are just two major cities that just sprung up out of nowhere because of the trade routes, and they were very diverse and very prosperous. In China, there's a lot of like steel manufacturing for like other goods and stuff, and China mainly exported textiles, porcelain, and silk, and it's the same usual you learn from school. So not much to talk about there. Just like luxury goods for Europe and also other countries. The Mongols very important because they were a nomadic group from like the Mongol steppe or from like Mongolia, and they basically were just scattered clans until Genghis Khan managed to unite them all as an empire, and then started spreading the empire by invading and conquering other countries. And the key word about the Mongols, why they managed to like have such a broad influence, because they were nomadic. They didn't have a set home; they could just live wherever and they could go wherever. So they were very mobile, and they would conquer China, they'd conquer Europe, they conquered Islamic kingdoms, like the sacking of Baghdad. We talked about that last time. So Mongols huge influence, and they made a huge empire too. And once Genghis Khan died, there was this it just completely fragmented. Just like another connection would be like Alexander the Great, which isn't in the curriculum, but it still happened where he had an empire and then it just split up after he died. So these made them khanates and stuff. Another thing on top of like the Mongols is that they really weren't they didn't really have a culture. Like they were pretty like open and tolerant. So like a lot of the Mongols who were in like the Arabian Peninsula or like in the Islamic kingdoms, they would actually convert to Islam instead of like imposing their religion or their cultural tradition. So that's pretty cool. And during the Mongol Empire, there was like the Pax Mongolica, which is pretty much just like the peak of like the areas under the Mongol control. And under this time, there was a lot of like like commerce was extremely ramped up, a lot of trading, lots of goods being distributed, and like they said here, like standardized weights and measures. So like they kind of started standardizing some forms of commerce to make it more convenient. Instead of having like 10 different scales and 10 different like currencies, you would have a relatively homogeneous one. Also, you
The
can see
Mongols were pretty lenient in religion, I'm pretty sure, right?
what's that?
Like they don't really care like
Yeah,
what
they don't really
religion.
care. They're very
What,
open. They're very
yeah,
tolerant.
they're and so that kind of contribute to the commerce because like people aren't restricted to their like
Yeah,
aren't having to converse into a specific religion, and so people can openly like talk about and like trade, etc.
yeah, because the Mongols, they didn't have a set religion. They were more open, and many of them converted actually to other religions than, the opposite, which would be them imposing it and then having other people convert for them. So that's pretty cool. And just like trading was extremely ramped up at this time. Yeah, so like you can talk about like how the Greeks and the Romans and like Islamic scholarship was distributed, and how like European thought and technology and like writing would also be like diffused to other areas in like Asia and other like regions of the world because of the trade routes, because you're not just trading goods, you're trading culture, and with culture you mean like religion, language, tradition, and also knowledge. Very important. And so we talk about the Indian Ocean now, which is like basically, as you mentioned last time, in Indonesia you have like the Sultanate of Malacca, which is this new like this new region that developed, this new state. And the key word here is sultanate. And you might be asking, why are they a sultanate? Isn't that for like Muslims? Well, that's because, like I mentioned earlier, the Muslim merchants who traded in Southeast Asia and India, they managed to get a lot of people to convert to Islam. And because of that, there's this new kingdom in pretty much the in Malacca that was now under the religion of Islam. And if you recall from like geography, the Strait of Malacca, which is like this really tight like choke point in the Indian Ocean, this is very important because all the trade has to flow down one tight area. So if you have a kingdom that controls that area, you control all the trade that goes on in that area, and that means you could get really wealthy, and also you could have a lot of power because you were pretty much in control of that area. And so like you could see states like the Gujarat and the Sultan of Malacca developed in this area, and like I said earlier, they were powerful centers of commerce. And also, not just like in Southeast Asia was a development, there was also development along the Swahili coast. And the Swahili coast is basically just like East Africa. And the Swahili language was also birthed because it was basically the mixing of Bantu languages and Arabic, and these would coincide, and like they would blend into Swahili, which is a new kind of like language. And this is also really important because it kind of shows like a syncretic change in culture, because now with like interaction and trade, you're seeing how cultures kind of like blend, and how people might assimilate to these cultures or change. And also, Zanzibar and other Swahili like city states in East Africa grew up and started springing up because of, like we mentioned, Islamic merchants would carry goods, and they want to, they their landing point would be out East Africa. They jump off of East Africa, go on ships. Monsoon winds. They go to like Southeast Asia, India. They trade and they come back. So this route of trade would involve them heavily, and thus a lot of cities grew up, and a lot of them emerged and were very wealthy too. A lot of merchants and activity. And we talked about this earlier, so that's pretty much it for Unit 2. Just trading and cultural diffusion and changes. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about in this whole unit? It could be anything, like the Mongols or the trading, or even like the religions or people. Okay, so this will be Unit 3 then. This is different time period now, 1450 to 1750. Notice how this were all in 1200 to 1450. So now time is kind of progressing, and now you're seeing changes in how states are developed and how states are growing. So of course we have to mention the Gunpowder Empire. This is very important because like this is kind of like the premise of how all these gigantic empires are seeing right here, how they are built. It's because of the diffusion of this like firearm technology where you use guns instead of swords or spears or bows and arrows. You use that, which is very efficient and also effective. As you say, the Mongols, not the Ottomans. Sorry, the Ottomans controlled all of this area. The Safavids controlled all of this area, and the Mughals controlled basically all of India, and that's all because of gunpowder. So gunpowder empire is very important. If you ever get a prompt on Unit 3, most likely 9 times out of 10 it'll include this gunpowder empire. You really can't miss it, honestly. So yeah, the gunpowder empires were very important, and it's really not just these empires that had gunpowder. Pretty much like at this time, most of the world was exposed to it in like the Eastern Hemisphere, and Asia, of course, had like a lot of gunpowder used because like the Qin dynasty, of course, they used it to expand. Like they'd use it to like expand their empires, like territorial reaches, and also would have like tributary states like Vietnam and other places where they give like tribute, and they would be part of like the empire technically, but also mostly independent. And also like we mentioned, the Mughal Empire, they'd control most of India, and these were from mostly like in the areas of like Afghanistan, and they're predominantly Islamic or Muslim. But when they conquered India, they were very tolerant to the Hindu people, which was the majority. So because of that, their empire managed to continue growing, and also did not suffer from stability issues until later. And the Safavids were mostly Shia Islam, so that's pretty interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, the Sunni and Shia split made this a source of tension. And most of the people that were Shia were in this area, which is like Persia or present-day Iran. And because they were Shia Islam, they clashed with like the Ottomans and the Mughals, because these are both Sunni Islamic empires. And yeah, that would just kind of be the source of conflict. So yeah, the Mughal Empire developed and basically just like conquered all of India. This kind of served as like the second generation of Islamic rule in India, because the first was the Delhi Sultanate, which only covered like this area of India, not like didn't stretch downward. So this empire was very large and also very effective because the administration was pretty effective. The Ottomans basically controlled most of. At first, there was the Anatolian Peninsula in like Europe, not sorry Europe, the Middle East, like Turkey, and then they started stretching into Europe by invading these like countries, and they conquered Constantinople, which is a very very big feat because this was this was a very important city that used to be inhabited by the Byzantines, but after that fell, basically all this trade from like Asia would have to flow in through Constantinople to reach Europe, and because of that, because now the Ottomans controlled that, they control the trade. So a lot of the Europeans here, they would be pretty much cut off from like Asia and the East. So this would kind of facilitate in the next unit how these European empires would try to, work around this, and they'd circumvent Africa and like, trade with other countries in Asia without having to go through the land routes, because now the Ottomans had a very tight foothold on it. And the Ottomans, of course, would also stretch through like, present-day Saudi Arabia and also Northern Africa, just because there was lots of resources and people that were willing to convert. And it was also relatively easy. So these are like the gunpowder empires. The Qin dynasty used it to expand, so did all these other empires. And also the Ming dynasty was this dynasty was the first Chinese dynasty after the Mongols invaded, and this was this is kind of replaced it, and it soon would become the Qin dynasty after this dynasty became kind of corrupt and was weakened. But in this dynasty, there's also one person that is pretty noteworthy to mention, and that would be saying he. And basically he was how do I phrase this? He was like this guy who like had ships, and he would be part of like the Ming dynasty, and the emperor would allow him to trade with other countries and to spread the prestige and the wealth of China. So he'd bring like these huge like ships, they were called junks at the time, and they had like lightning sails, rudders, and they were like stocked to the brim with like modern technology at the time, and they would just go around the Swahili coast and like Indonesia and like Southeast Asia, and they just go trading and also just kind of like interacting with other cultures. And he would make 7 of these voyages before the next emperor would replace that emperor, and then shut China off from trade. And China at that time was very isolated because they were scared of like foreign invasions, because if you think about their perspective, they were just invaded by the Mongols, so they didn't really want other countries to control them. And the same would be said for Japan, because Japan also was mostly isolationist, because they didn't want their religion or cultures to be influenced by others, so they wanted to preserve that. And so China kind of fell into a more of an isolationist state, less trading, less interaction. And eventually the Manchu people, which was like an ethnic group in northern China, like in Manchuria, they would invade Beijing and basically just replace the Ming dynasty. And they established the Qing dynasty. And this is very important because this empire was not governed normally like the other empires, which is by the Han majority of ethnic people in China. This was governed by an ethnic minority. So this was also a source of like conflict and ethnic tension. But these guys who ruled the Qing, they would employ a lot of Han officials in their bureaucracy. So that way, it still seemed like they were, mostly Chinese and not like an outside barbaric invader. And that's kind of like their way of legitimizing power. And we'll talk more about legitimizing power in the next couple segments. But basically, these empires grew up, and also the Songhai Empire in like Africa. These guys were not very they didn't use gunpowder technologies, so they had a conflict with Morocco, and Morocco did have gunpowder technologies, so Morocco kind of just like beat them, and in a conflict they lost territory and land and control. So, all right, administration. This is very important because you think these empires are sound so big. How do they control this land? How do they, hold on to what they have? And the Ottomans would use this by practicing the Devshirme system, which is basically they would have, they would rally up Christian boys who were in their empire, and most of them were like slaves or not really important, and they try to train them. They put them over like a rigorous like Ottoman like training where they become janissaries or they become bureaucratic officials, both of which were highly esteemed at the time. And this is very important because it served as a source of manpower and also labor for them, while also kind of like controlling the masses easily, because these people were from local like cities and regions of this large empire, and once they became like bureaucratic officials, it would be pretty easy to manage. And also they were also very loyal to the Sultan, because as a kid you were kind of fed this information about how great the Ottoman Empire how great the Sultan is, and as you grow older, you would be more and more dedicated to him. And especially for the Janissary, because Janissaries were like the elite core of the military. They were very good and they were very experienced, and they would win most of the battles that the Ottomans would fight because they were just so well trained and like well established. In Japan, they had samurais, and Japan was mostly feudalistic, like Europe. Well, during like 1200s, and they would have samurais that they deploy to control the land and also to wage war and also to do other things. And in Mesoamerica, they're still doing human sacrifices. Not much has changed before maritime interaction, so they were relatively isolated from the rest of the world when this was all going on. Okay, so now you have to talk about like how they kept their power. So not just how what they did with the power, they had to also keep the power. So in Europe, they had this idea of the divine right of kings, which was basically the ruler or the king of this kingdom would be appointed by God. So they were considered to be like universally supreme or ultimate. Their say was like basically the will of God, and nobody would want to combat that, because if you combated that, you would be considered a heretic because you were going against the will of God, which was basically the mouthpiece of the king. And of course, if you were against God, you'd be ostracized. You'd be pretty much. I think you were also like burned on a cross because you were thought of as a heretic. So nobody really wanted that. So nobody really went against the king, and this gave them immense power in their like established kingdoms. And also, there wasn't just religion that became a factor. It was also architecture, like the Palace of Versailles in France. Louis the 14th, I believe, built this, and it was a symbol of wealth and power because it was magnificent. It was huge. It was very wealthy, and it showed the rest of the people that were living in France that this person was king and that he held most of the power. And in the Islamic world, the Mughal Empire would build a Taj Mahal, which is this huge structure made of like marble and crystal. And this gigantic structure was made. The main purpose of it was to serve as a mausoleum for Shah Jahan's dead wife. And you're thinking, wow, that's very intricate and very extravagant for a dead person. But the point wasn't just to commemorate the death of this person; it was also to show that the Shah was in power and that all the power was rested upon him, and that because of that, he could build this huge thing using the labor of many architects throughout the kingdom and people. So pretty interesting, the Taj Mahal. And also zamindars. The Mughals had zamindars, which was like basically people that were employed by the emperor, and they would be dispersed all over the empire, and they would basically control areas for taxings. Like they would collect taxes on behalf of the Mughal Empire, and they would also manage parts of the empire for them, because it was so big that one emperor couldn't control it all. So he had to, in a sort, delegate power to other places and other local officials to control them. The Ming Empire, they were pretty smart because they used hard currency instead of other types of currency, and this is also would contribute to the agricultural production and also the commerce that would go on in this dynasty. So pretty mostly belief systems. This is also very important. Cross Reformation. This is extremely vital because it was the major schism at this time that separated the Catholic Church and the Protestant majority now in like northern Germany and like northern Europe basically. Basically, this happened because of Martin Luther. He saw that the Catholic Church was becoming very corrupt and very immorally unjust. So he decided to post like 95 reasons why the church sucks, basically, and this prompted this whole like religious, like I guess like religious change or reform. And a major technology that kind of prompted this was the printing, because his word would be spread throughout this like the whole continent of Europe because of printing technologies that made this like very accessible to people. And this also prompted the Catholics to do their Counter Reformation, which basically reshaped the beliefs of Christianity and also how it's practiced. Because the Catholics at the time were very corrupt. They'd have like remittances where it's like you have to pay your way to get into heaven, or you had to do this or that, and it was also mostly just based on like monetary value. And also the Catholics, they weren't really they had a lot of power. Papal did, like the Pope would have extreme power over like kingdoms in Europe. This is very different. It was a Reformation, and also because of that, you could see some religious wars being waged in Europe because
I think like Catholic the Catholic Counter Reformation was the response to the Protestant
yeah,
Reformation. For
yeah,
what?
mainly.
It was
And
like it was that where like the Protestant Reformation proposed for like these ideas to be changed, and the Catholic Counter Reformation is like, okay, well, since you guys propose for this, here's what we do, here's what we act, here's how
yeah,
we're gonna change the system.
And also, one of the changes from the counter-reformation was like the construction of the Jesuits, which were basically missionaries, and these Jesuits would like be spread around the world, like in Asia and like Africa, and they'd try to convert people to Christianity. It was one of their major like motives at the time too. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for like the Protestant Reformation. It's pretty important because like some countries would change religious statuses, and like ultimately, like especially in like England, they would completely become their own thing because of this, and they utilize it to become ethnically different, like religiously different. Also, like the Sunni and Shia split. I mentioned this already. This a source of tension, and while this was happening, though, the Mughals in India, they created this new religion called Sikhism, which was like this new belief that blended together the beliefs of Islam and Hinduism. And this is honestly an attempt made by the emperor. Like I think it was Akbar. He tried to create this religion so that it could unite the people because Hinduism is polytheistic, Islam is monotheistic, so those do not mix well. It's like oil and water. So this was their one attempt at trying to reduce this tension, also to create some cultural unity within the empire. And that's it for Unit 3, basically. Just you have gunpowder technologies, you have ways of establishing power, you had ways of administering and controlling this power, like tax collection, the Dev Sherme system, samurais, and overall, this would be kind of how these empires would manage themselves. And this kind of sets them up for the next unit, which would be maritime exploration. So that's pretty much what this unit is about. Does anybody want to talk about this, or just like
Hello, Will.
hi?
So what was going on in Russia, like from 1400 to like 17?
I'm sorry. Could you like speak up a little bit?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Kind of. It's a bit like I can turn my volume, I guess.
Sorry. So what was going on in Russia from 1400 to?
Oh, like what was going on in Russia at this time?
Yeah.
Well, mostly it was like
Basically, I think that Ivan the Sixth
yeah, Ivan's
expanded.
terrible.
Ivan the Sixth expanded basically like the border to Kazan, Stockholm, and Syria, and it's basically another empire that relies on gunpowder.
Yeah, definitely. They kind of kick out the
Mhm.
Mongol Khanates or the remnants of them in like the east, and they would expand Russia as an empire. And I mean, also like
Okay.
if you're talking about, like socially, like the serfs, that lived in the area, they would also have, they would also protest for like independence and freedom from serfdom. So that was also something interesting happened later.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's pretty much for Russia at least. Also, you can say they use
Will,
gunpowder to expand.
Will,
Yeah, what's up?
could you talk about the Ottoman tax farming again? And
Oh,
the
yeah,
ooh,
okay.
girls just want to have fun.
Shut up, shut up. This is your playlist, dude. This is your Spotify
Oh no,
playlist. Don't you judge.
be quiet.
This is your music taste.
I
Joe.
would like to hear about Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, so Ottoman
The,
tax farming.
the tax farming.
Tax
Can
farming,
you talk about?
of course, tax farming. I mean, we went over this in a call together, but all right.
Yeah,
So
but
tax
tell me.
farming. Basically, the Ottomans did something similar to the Mughals with their Zamindars, and they employed people all over their empire to manage certain areas of them to facilitate the collection of taxes, as the name suggests, tax farming. Like you're farming taxes from the people. So that's a good way to think about it. And basically, they collect the taxes. They administered parts of the empire for the emperor. I'm not. Yeah, well, the Sultan. That's probably a better way to put it. And they're also very loyal to them too. So basically, just like their way of administering and controlling power
Okay.
throughout the empire. Basically, just think of it as like the Zamindars, but applied to the Mughal Empire. Okay. Any other questions?
So,
Can
so
you
you went
talk
over
about
how.
Japan?
Yeah, Japan. Yeah, I like.
Japan. All right. So Japan, we kind of went over this earlier, which is basically they were mostly still feudalistic. I mean, this is before their major restorations, so they were just they weren't really industrialized. And although you could talk about the Tokugawa shogunate, which was like basically where the shogun controlled all of like Japan's power, and they had like the emperor as like a puppet kind of, where it'd be a figure, like a political figure, but they didn't have any actual power. So that's pretty important about Japan. And I believe there was like this war, which was like basically to unify all the city states and all the feudalistic like changes in Japan, and eventually they have like this unified pretty much like a unified state, which is what Japan looks like today. So that's pretty much it for Japan. I mean, they didn't really have well, they had technology for gunpowder too, I believe. They had like rifles and not rifles, but like firearms that use gunpowder. So, but they weren't really a gunpowder like empire though, because they didn't use it to expand like drastically, not like as big as these empires were. Okay, any other questions?
How did China legitimize their rule?
So the Qing dynasty, like we said earlier, they like bureaucratically they appointed people that were mostly like Han ethnic, so they were most ethnically Han, so they could have like the idea of like cultural homogeneity or like the similarities, and also like not mentioned in this thing is like how they used portraits of the emperor to justify their power because they had like these huge like portraits of the emperor and they placed them in areas where people were like walking down the street or they'd be walking around the imperial palace and they'd see like this huge like gigantic like portraits of the empire so they'd know like who was in charge basically. Also they also built like architecture like the Forbidden Palace and other gigantic imperial palaces that also showed their wealth and um,
No, you guys don't gotta ask like one person, right? This is for you guys can ask anyone.
yeah,
in
you guys
the
can ask like
group.
anybody here and anyone can ask questions and respond to them.
Mhm.
Okay.
Can you talk about the technologies from the trade again from Unit 2?
The Unit 2.
Technologies. The technologies. I feel like you didn't go into enough detail about the technologies. You
Okay, then what
spoke
would
about
you
on
like to
the
go detail about?
me. I'm asking you here.
Well, okay, so like the astrolabe,
I mean,
like the Latin sail, very important. The astrolabe, the
you
Latin sail,
skipped out on like
the
paper
compass,
money.
paper money. Oh,
Uh,
see, that's not really okay. So a type of currency that was invented, I believe it started in China, was paper money, and it was pretty like revolutionary because instead of carrying like heavy coins or like other things to barter with, you could have paper money, which was really light and convenient, and this would also work for trading. And this is also kind of like coinciding with credit systems, which were like I don't honestly like specify in this a lot, and I don't really know much about like the flying like credit or whatever they call it. So if anyone wants to talk about like currency, that'd be great. But mainly they just
You mean the flying cash?
yeah, the flying cash.
Yeah.
Flying credit. Flying credit, yeah.
Okay.
Credit is fine.
Basically,
You see,
flying cash.
this is what I said.
Flying cash is like created by China as a new form of credit because they made it easier to transport the wealth and reduce the risk of robbery.
Okay, so how
That's
did it
what
work?
it is.
How did it
Hmm?
work? Was it just like
There's
an
like a T-shirt cannon, except you loaded it with cash.
That sounds pretty
Amazing.
epic.
I made just launch cash around the world. Was it like an IOU statement or was it like a paper credit, like a receipt? I don't know.
I think it's like flying. Wait, let me see.
They
Let me Google.
used paper cash, more than likely.
What
Paper
is flying cash?
flying cash.
Obviously.
Yes, it's cash. That's flying.
Yeah, it's a paper currency. It's kind of like a paper currency. Think
Okay.
of like the bills we use. Like think of the dollar bills we use
Yeah, that kind of
nowadays.
stuff. Yeah, very
But-
convenient to use, and also pretty like change. Pretty
Hmm.
innovative. All right, let's see.
The astrolabe basically measures the position of the stars, and then
Your
with
life
this,
too.
like people can astronomers they have better knowledge of like what's happening, and so astronomy is applied to traveling, and so this increase like the reliability of the stars where people could say like, okay, we're heading in this direction because of the stars like that. Yes.
Yeah, true.
Will, could you talk about the Mongols and how they conquered the Abbasid and the Song Dynasty?
Sure. Okay. So, we've gone over this already, but sure. Okay.
No, but you didn't talk about the
What
Abbasid
the
or
Mongols is in
I'm
the
talking about the second
well,
Baghdad though in 1258.
I get it, but you never talked about the song.
what
It's anything you
Mongol
want to
How
talk
they did
about.
it, all
It's
they
were
anything
did
you
that.
want
Mongols
to
in the
talk about
third
the song.
units?
Hmm?
What unit were the Mongols in?
Unit
Uh,
2.
Unit
the
2?
time period though, it's
Yes.
1200.
But let me see. Who's in the call right now? Oh, Vincent. Okay.
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 Let me talk about the Mongols. The Mongols.
Yay!
Yes.
Okay. The Mongols is basically created by Temujin and was like formed in the 13th century. It was highly centralized due to military and like disciplined warriors, both male and female. You had to know that because in that kind they didn't really care. Well, I don't know about that, male or female, but that were like equipped with like short bows and proficient at horse riding, and their system of like tens, hundreds, 1,000, 10,000s of like their military group system, right? Allowed them to like conquer
Yeah, like the military,
other
like,
I think you
organization.
conquer other
forgot to add that they're religiously tolerant.
I no,
Yeah.
we talk about that.
Yeah, we did.
Talk about it now. I
Yeah,
didn't
I
hear
want to
it.
hear about it again.
Yeah, I want to hear.
Okay, so the Mongols, like, they didn't have a set religion or a cultural identity, so they were very influenced by other cultures and identities. So like when the Mongols invaded the Abbasids and capitulated them by sacking Baghdad and stuff, many of the remnants of Islamic like rule would also be passed on to the Mongols, and this interaction between these two like states would also prompt many of the Mongols to convert to Islam, and many of the Mongols from other areas, they'd also adopt the parts of the culture, and because like they didn't really have a culture, so they were very keen
Breaking
to develop
news.
a new culture. Shut up. So yeah, basically, just they would adopt many cultures because of
And
this.
then when the Mongol dynasty like fell and split, it split into like the full khanates due to
Mhm.
like the factionism.
Yeah,
I
and
forgot what
realistically,
these
like
four khanates are called. Oh wait, I think
the
I know one
Ilkhanate,
of them is like the
The
Golden
Ilkhanate, the Golden
Horde,
Horde,
the
Yuan
Chagat,
Yuan
dynasty,
dynasty, Yuan.
and then the
The,
Mongol thingy, whatever it's
and the
called.
Chagatai Khanates.
Yeah, the Chigat,
oh
yeah,
yeah, in the middle,
Yeah.
the Central Asia,
that thing, yeah, the sea Khanate.
Kazakhstan.
But another thing I know about the Mongols is like once they capitulated, like they didn't really leave behind much because they didn't really have a culture as to like make an imprint. It was mostly just like things kind of resumed back to normal because like they mostly adopted other cultures rather than imposing new cultures or forcing people to change to new cultures. So that was an interesting like kind of change because like
And
most empires
China
when they like change, yeah.
and China during this time they went through like the Yuan dynasty, which is created by the Kublai Khan, who is Genghis Khan's grandson, and he basically eventually conquered China, established the Yuan dynasty here. Like basically order was maintained through like the Chinese administrative practices, taxation, postal system, but there was an elimination of the civil service exam. This collapsed in 1368 due to like factionism, the Black Death, and increased peasants' rebellion and high prices.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it for like the
Well,
basics of Unit 2. What,
can you
Antonio?
can you talk about the significance of the Pax Mongolica in spreading religion, culture, and technology from the east to the west during this time period
Well,
and the next?
Since you know the Mongols were religiously tolerant, right? So, and a religiously tolerant. Okay.
I mean,
Since
basically,
they were religiously tolerant, there's like
You muted me.
wait, what?
You muted me. I'm
I
sorry.
didn't.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
That wasn't me. I did not mute you.
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay. So the Pax Mongolica was basically just like a period of peace in the Mongol Empire where they would not see any more like territorial expansion. And it really revitalized commerce because if you think about it, the Mongol Empire was like huge. It spanned like it was the largest land-based empire in the whole history of the world. Because of that, like if you think about the Silk Road, it pretty much like if you put them together, it would overlap into the Mongol Empire. So because of that, trading was very like it was very safe because instead of traveling to other lands of other states and other like regions, you would have the homogenous Mongol Empire. And so a lot of people like would invest in like trading. And also Mongols, they placed a very high emphasis on art and like monetary like merchant activity. So they encouraged that to happen, especially like in China. So there are a lot of like merchants that were trading in Silk Road, and it was also very safe because they're protected by the Mongol Empire.
and basically since they're like they would capture like empires and like and that has like a really large number with like the Mongols being a really small number, but they still capture the empire, illustrates fear into the other future empires that they're going to conquest. And then the Mongols will use these people that they conquest and capture like engineers, merchants and use it to advance their own empire. And so this kind of like put because people want to contribute to the Mongols empire because they are in fear of being like conquered, so they relatively just submiss they were like submissive to like the empire because they don't want to get conquered and fear the like loss of so many lives, and this causes like the peace due to like fear.
Yeah, because the Mongols were very brutal. They killed a lot of people. I mean, there's good things and bad things about the Mongols because they did pillage a lot of people and like innocently like people would die of stuff but they also made this like huge thing happen where trading and distributing of technology and innovation was like ramped up because of their control over all of the world basically. Europe, well, Eastern Hemisphere at least.
Can you
Okay, I
talk
think
about the Black Plague now?
the Black Plague. We talked about this last time, but basically disease that killed most of the people in Europe, like half, and also was spread by the Mongols because they had like this huge empire and also this trade routes would also carry it around. And it hit Europe the hardest because of Europe was population dense. People were
Well, the
hygienic.
Black Plague, first of all, like spread through the trade routes because it has so many trade and interactions. The two main trade route that you probably need to know for the Black Plague is probably the Silk Road and the Indian Ocean one because like Indian Ocean one they spread through like the shipping crates, and through the Silk Road they might carry throughout like interactions of people, and this like spread was major because there was no precautionary measure taken in place, and like trade network contribute to this as as well as lack of knowledge of like diseases and etc.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
so
the Black Plague, right, devastating.
so I know you talked about the Sultanate of Malacca, but could you also talk about the other cities and stuff that uh flourished because of the trade on uh on the Indian Ocean and the
Oh, like other states that were
Saharan,
like
yeah, other cities and states.
yeah, okay. So like the Indian Ocean, you can think about like the start and the end of the Indian Ocean trade route. Like, the Swahili coast, there's a lot of like cities that sprung up. Like, Zanzibar, Great
Yeah,
Zimbabwe,
Bar-
Mogadishu, those were big cities that started springing up because of Muslim merchants bringing goods and they needed a place to stay and also need a place to like, trade. So this just kind of prompted and facilitated the growth of these cities. And not only that, but also in like Southeast Asia and also like in India, there's also big city states and not city states, but like big states, well, cities in the states that grew because of the economic prosperity of the Indian Ocean. A lot of merchants would come in
Um,
and rest
I
like
forgot which empire it was. It was either the Sultanate of Malacca
mhm.
or some other empire, but it was like an empire that's like it. Okay, it's in the Indian Ocean trade route, but like ships are required to pass through here in order to reach on the other side. And in this empire, it's like they had to pass through it, and then like the empire had to tax through grew because of taxation in these places.
Like, yeah, taxation was because they controlled the area of like the trading. So
What wasn't there a Chinese general named Zhang He in the Mediterranean Sea or something?
I think
I
we will
can't
talk
remember.
about that in Unit 4 now because like that's more like ocean related
yeah,
stuff.
but basically
Ah,
he would set out like 7 times for like voyages, and he would bring like Chinese goods and also their culture to other places like in Africa
How
and
about let's move on
Asia.
to Unit 4 now.
Yeah, I feel that's a
Yeah.
good idea. Okay. So Unit 4, transoceanic interconnection, same time period, of course. And so as you see in the pictures, you got lots of ships developing, and these ships were very fast. They had utilized the technologies that we've talked about previously, like the compass, the Latin sail, the rudder, and the
Also like the different kind of ship design, the caravel, carrack, and the flutes.
don't forget the junk.
the junk, the
Yeah,
Chinese
the
junk.
junk.
Chinese junks are very huge though, so they're bigger than like Columbus's ships, but like they were mostly meant for trading and stuff.
But
But
these ships
these ships
like
are
it's highly
nimble,
maneuverable.
highly maneuverable.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why this happened. If you want to contextualize about this, you could talk about like in some states in Europe there was like the Spanish Reconquista where they were kicking out Muslim influence in Spain, and because of that, they were after they kicked them out, they were more powerful. and they could have control over like this region of Spain.
Wait, before we go on, do you guys want to continue this?
Yeah, do you want to consider? Do you want to do like
Vin-
BBQ
because
sort?
because Vincent says that let's end this. So do you guys still want to do this or?
Like on Monday, if
end
you
it?
guys want to resume this, we could do units 4, 5, and 6, which would be the last 3. And I mean, looking at this right now, it's pretty interesting. But
So
it's
will
up to
we
you
be
guys.
writing any DBQs?
Yeah, you guys
DBQ, we're thinking about making it as a thing for optional homework. So
like,
if you
here's the
want
thing,
to,
though. The idea is that we were going to possibly make DBQs like we discussed the sources in like the calls, but then you guys like you can like log off and do it at your own time when you have like time to write it, and then you get like you get submit your DBQs at like the DBQ submission channel, and then we can like kind of peer grade them or review them. So that's up to you guys. I mean, if you all have 45 minutes or something to write this, then we could do it now. But if you want to just kind of go over the documents for the DBQ and then have it be assigned as like you could do it on your own time, then that also work.
I heard the college board wasn't going up to Unit 7.
Yeah, they aren't. They're
Yeah, they
stopping at
aren't.
Unit 6.
That's good.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like
Yes,
1900. I
you
think
really don't have to know much about it, so which is nice.
that's true. Yeah,
Because
like
I
not
mean,
like World
there
War
is
One or
some
two.
argument that you can use it for contextualization, but you really can't. Because using that sort of stuff for contextualization is not really the right way to go about.
Yeah,
Right.
because for contextualization, you want to do it before the time period, or like this, like kind of preceding it. So like 50 years before the time period they give you. So like Unit 7 and 8 would be like after.
Oh man, but I live in Unit 8.
Yeah, I know. We live in the Unit. Eventually there'll be Unit 9.
There's so much stuff I know about Unit 8.
Yeah, yeah, same. Because like World War II and like stuff.
Cold War,
Yes, very interesting
Cold
stuff.
War,
Very intriguing.
Proxy War,
Proxy wars.
USSR.
The MAD.
MAD. The Cuban Missile Crisis. Bay of Pigs invasion. Yeah, good stuff. But we don't need all that. You could mention it though as like complexity, like or just as further elaboration
Hard,
if it's
hard to link
relevant.
some of that stuff.
Yeah, but that's up to you guys though. They're not requiring it, so you don't need to mention it explicitly. But yeah, pretty much it. So you guys want to like do a DBQ like some document sourcing?
Yeah, I'm fine with whatever.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Document sourcing.
Document sourcing it shall be.
Will, what are you watching on YouTube?
yep, okay.
What do you mean? What am I watching? I might need real quick just.
Oh, this
Uh-oh.
app.
I was trying to steal this information.
Give me a second. I'm just gonna. Cause like when you sign to AP College Board, it shows like your AP like ID. So
Oh.
I
Dude,
don't
you know,
that confidential.
you know the other day,
Do you not
yeah,
trust us, Will?
well, you know the other day your AP Hug ID is the same as the AP World, right?
You see, we don't talk. About it now.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Stutter.
I might have.
Stutter.
Is this the idea that none of you guys will like hijack into my College Board account?
No, we won't do that. You trust us,
I
right?
hope not. Okay, so I found the document. This is for Unit 4. Oh, wait, we didn't do Unit 4 yet. Crap. Never mind. Not relevant. Never mind. This is.
So we
Where's Unit? Okay, so Units 1 and 2. This is interesting. It's like a blend. Okay, so we got something about the Bible.
are you gonna do about the College Board?
What do you mean?
Okay.
One of the college board practicing.
College Board practices. So we're just gonna we're going
Well,
to.
I don't want to get. I'm gonna leave because I'm gonna do the College Board like with actually 45 minutes straight away. I don't
Oh,
want to
sure.
like
Yeah,
know.
you feel free to
Yeah.
do that if you want. Yeah.
So I'm kind of busy right now. Bye.
Okay, bye. See ya. So, anyways, these.
Good.
Anyways, this would be for document sourcing, and so basically the prompt is compare and contrast the attitudes of Christianity and Islam towards merchants and trade from religious origins until about 1500. So the time period is about
Oh,
till 1500. And let's see what it says. So okay, yeah. So the prompt is actually compare and contrast the attitude. Huh.
towards merchant and
Okay.
from religions origin.
Yeah. So how does religion like what is their attitude towards merchants and trading activities during this time period? Okay,
Well, without any documents, I think you can say pretty clearly that Islam likes it more.
yeah. So we have this source. Source one is the Bible. Okay then. Sources one is the Bible.
That's a pretty big book.
I like that source.
So this is literally just like one sentence. So this shouldn't
Not
take
even a
very long.
bird.
It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle
Eye of-
than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Interesting. Okay, so what do you guys think this is talking about? Like, how does Christianity think about merchants
Well,
based on this?
I don't know. I guess they like gold.
They like gold.
No.
it's about like being humble. Like
Yes.
the eye of the
Don't
needle.
be don't
Don't
be
be
greedy
greedy.
and respect your parents or something.
Interesting
I
that you say that.
think that's China.
Could be
I was
both.
never a big fan of the Bible too.
Well, let's kind of break this up then. So basically, this dude said to his disciples, "A rich man shall hardly enter the kingdom of heaven." So rich people will basically never make it to heaven. So what is that? So basically, it's like kind of a negative idea. Like if you're a rich guy, you don't deserve to go to the afterlife of heaven. And so he says unto you that it's easier. He has like this, this saying that it's easier for a camel to go through a needle, an eye of a needle. So like,
It's more like a needle was the entrance to one of the big trading cities, and it was really small. And in order for a camel to get in, they have
I
to like
see.
get really small,
I see. See, I didn't
and
know
they have
that. I
to
didn't know that.
like
Okay.
get tiny.
See, I
And
don't.
so it's an
I don't read the
expression
Bible.
saying that it's it's harder because like a rich man, if you're comparing it, like he's all fluffed up and greedy, and
Mhm.
if you think about it like the same, like if the eye of the needle is the entrance, then the rich man is too fluffed up to get inside, and it's just basically saying
I
that you have to be
see.
humble.
Yeah. So good. Very good. Because I didn't know that. I didn't know about the eye of the needle, like the analogy. So
Yeah.
that's cool. So basically, document one is saying that Christianity does not have a positive outlook on religion, like on trading, and they don't really respect it. They don't really care about it. They think it's bad. Okay. So let's go to unit two. I mean, not unit two. Document two. Jeez. So this is the Quran. So this is the Muslim Bible, basically. If you want to think about that.
Uh,
My
So
mom's read that.
very cool.
She said it was pretty aight.
Yeah. It's also very long too. So okay, I can just make an assumption that Muslims are gonna have a positive outlook on trade. That's like my hunch. So
Well, yeah, they have like it's in one of their pillars that they must give alms to like poor
yeah, the
people.
poor, yeah, exactly, yeah, like charitable like giving, yeah.
Monster Musa flashback.
Send us Hajj, daily alms of gold. Okay, so woe to the cheaters who they take measure due for men. They give less than is due. Hmm. Their transaction shall be blessed. That's interesting.
I think
So
the
on the
last
day of
sentence pretty much
judgment,
says it the best.
Yeah. Last sentence.
I think what it's saying is honesty is the best policy.
yeah, basically, like you're saying, like on the day of judgment, a truthful Muslim will take with them all the deeds that they've done of the faith, like the good stuff and the bad stuff.
And I guess a similarity would be they still frown upon greed, upon greed, because they're honest, truthful merchants only. But like Christianity's like, no, we don't like that at all. Rich people do not get in. But then the Muslims like they have a line between where it's okay.
Yeah, like if it's like fair and equal, then it's blessed. If it's lies or if it was bad, then it's obliterated, or like the transaction is not worth anything. So it's like they have more like I guess freedom to decide like whether or not you want to make it a good thing. But mostly it's like they have a pretty I guess they don't have a negative outlook on merchant trading. So I guess you could say it could either be positive or neutral.
But how would we source these? By the
Sourcing
way,
them. So
uh,
okay.
the Quran and the Bible. How would you
Yeah,
source
those are kind of hard because they're like the religious texts, they're not people. So there's
Yeah.
not really much of like a bias per se, but there is
really historical situation, I guess.
yeah, I guess you
Audience.
could say with
You could do audience maybe,
audience
and
of the
but not
people. Yeah,
not the
I don't know.
speaker.
I wouldn't try to source this one
I
usually.
Yeah.
I
think
would more focus on the other ones because this isn't
Mhm.
really a objective opinion.
yeah.
wouldn't the
It's
bias be the time it's in?
Yeah, I think
could be.
if
Yeah,
you
so
were going to try to source these, it would just be about the historical context of the
yeah,
doc.
yeah. Like this time period of like 70, 80 or 620.
So,
Oh yeah,
Interesting.
that's true.
but definitely not the audience. That'd
No,
be
because the audience is really
awkward.
broad. I mean, these are both universalizing religions, so like the audience could be anybody. This could be like a group of people, and the purpose is the purpose is as it states. I mean, religion has a purpose, but it's not like a person count where there could be bias. So yeah, for honestly, like these two documents just kind of state them, incorporate them, but don't really like
Yeah.
expand on them unless you really feel like there's something important about this. Okay, unit on document 3. So this is okay. This is not a document anymore. It's a monk's source thing. The life of Saint Godric.
It's
Godric
another religious text, as it
I
seems
think
like.
this one's Christian.
could be yeah,
Saint.
Because
because
Saint.
Saint yeah
I
Saint
don't know
like
about
British
that.
merchant. So
Yeah.
written before the death in 1170. So okay, husbandman.
Aha, I
Darn.
see.
Yeah, I got to the end of it now.
Is it just a story about how a man liberated himself by selling all his possessions and giving to the poor?
Okay, great prophet and all his part gathered much wealth. Oh,
Okay, so I think it's basically just a story that's saying. Oh wait, are you done, Will?
almost.
Okay.
Just kind of reading it.
Read faster.
Okay, reading faster. Zoom. So it's like charitable giving, yeah. Okay, pilgrimage. He's a pilgrim.
It's not really a pilgrim. It's more like just going over there. It's kind of
Yeah,
like
it's a
a vacation.
pilgrim.
A
Yeah, he's going like
pilgrimage,
giving away stuff.
a pilgrimage to Jerusalem is like
Just kind of like
I
a
think it's Jesus or something because it
yeah, it's
says he
holy land,
took a
right?
cross. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could source this one pretty easily.
Yeah, okay, I'm done. So yeah, what do you guys think?
So I think what it's saying is like it's okay that like you were a merchant, but if you devote yourself to God and then give away your possessions and then convert to like a life of hermit, then all your like sins will be like appeased or something.
Well, it's
I'm
more
sure.
about like, so if they say that if you want to follow uh Jesus, he lived really humbly. And so then if you really want to follow him, you have to be willing to give up everything. And so then the idea of being a merchant and garnering all that kind of wealth would have been unappealing because you'd have to lose all of that.
Oh yeah, it's
You'd
like
have to
material
be
greed.
willing to give all that up.
Huh.
And so this one, it says that he was a merchant, and then he began to think of spending on charity, to God's honor and service, and then sold everything, and then went and made a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, which is kind of significant because this is written before 1170. So that's still kind of crusade time, Holy Land.
Yeah, like 1085. Yeah.
So this wasn't too horribly far apart from that. There were still like 8 other crusades to go from that point. So then obviously going back to the Holy Land and doing all that stuff would have been something that a lot of Europeans at the time would have wanted. And so then,
Yeah, so the idea is basically like
I'm trying to source the
the
speak.
document basically. It's like if you want to like be a merchant, you should dedicate your wealth to others and like become charitable. But if you hold on to that wealth, and that causes greed and that also makes you corrupt as a human. So I guess it's like they're thinking of like merchant activity as in like kind of tempting, but also not morally just. I guess
Oh
like
wait,
the
can you
doctrine of
go back?
Christianity.
Go
I mean,
back to
there's good and
prompt.
bad about it. But now it's a question of like how do we like source this guy's like bias or like
Oh,
his
I would say that you could use purpose, because you would say that the purpose of this document is to shame people who want to take the path of a merchant, because it's like, oh, um, it's basically saying how he rethought his step 16 years later, and he was like, oh, I don't want to be a merchant, I want to give everything away and go be a monk or something. So I
yeah,
think
that's
purpose
true.
is to shame everyone that wants to take his original path, and um just try to ease ease them into becoming what he became afterwards.
Yeah,
I
because
think you could also source it in religion because that's a pretty hot topic. Especially in like 1170 because there's like a nationalistic take on Christianity with all the what is it crusades as were
Crusade.
going on. Yeah,
yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, the source was written by a monk, so like you kind of suggest like he has like his own
Well,
like um
I don't think it was. Oh, never mind. It was written by a monk.
yeah.
I thought it was talking about the monk, like the monk was Saint Godric,
Oh, I see, I see.
but I didn't see the young colleague of him.
Yeah,
Bi-
so I think we got it
biography.
basically. Basically, like like they don't have a positive outlook on merchant activity because they think that it can corrupt people and also make them greedy and selfish.
Yeah. Pairing this one goes back to document 1, 'cause it's the same. Like if you trade, you're too fluffed to go into the gates of heaven.
Yeah,
Same thing. Just greed
so
is bad.
negative. Yeah, so like our true groups would be like positive for like Islam. They have a positive outlook, and then Christianity has a negative outlook mostly. Okay, let's go to document 4 and see what they have to say. So this is a guy by name Thomas.
It's
So
another Christian.
Christian dude, yes. Interesting.
I think this is a Bible verse.
Yeah, I think so because like Matthew 7:12. Yeah, this is like a verse. Okay. It is altogether sinful to have recourse in deceit. Hmm. I see. So this is like interesting because it's like kind of like it's also negative against merchant activity since it's like it's not
Yeah,
fair to sell
from what
stuff
I
for
see,
more than it's worth.
it's not really saying directly that selling things is bad or buying things is bad. It's more just saying if you barter, you're bad. It's
Well,
sinful, I guess it would be.
I think it's just saying that don't sell things more than its price.
Yeah,
or buy it for less than its price. Actually,
it's like they think of it as like
Yeah.
unfair to do that to somebody where you like have a markup or like you try to make a profit off them or you yeah. So
No,
I guess it's more like appealing to the like emotional like or like ethics because like
yeah.
people want to be
Aquinas was
just or fair.
it's a morality take.
Yeah, definitely. So you can kind of source it like that with like the bias of Thomas or the purpose of like shunning people who you know try to profit or pocket some extra change or from like these deals or trading activities, or like the time period of like 1273. I mean, like this is after the Crusades, of course, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this really doesn't have
Right.
much against it though, because it's not really that important. But definitely, like the thing he says is really kind of showing how merchant activity was not looked upon well in
Is
Christianity.
the
He
bias of Aquinas
references Cicero. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah,
Who
Cicero,
was
bro,
a
who
Roman.
was like
the orator,
Roman aristocrat.
Oh yeah, I remember that from like first quarter. I
the
remember that.
speech guy.
Yeah, speech
Yeah.
guy.
And he was like awfully against like manual labor and stuff for
Yeah, he was,
nobles and stuff.
and
So I
he was
guess you
also
could put that in
against
sourcing.
that. Like he kind of like cites him, like uses
Yeah.
words.
No, like the bias of Aquinas, right? He's a theologian, so his job was to write
A theo.
on behalf of the church.
Oh yeah,
So
he was heavily influenced by like religious activity and belief.
yeah, so his job was basically to write what the church thought about certain topics, and so then this was his take on trade,
Yeah,
and exchange and all that.
yeah, like trade. Yeah, definitely because he has like political. He's part of the political institution and religious group of Christianity, so he definitely had to have that made clear. Okay, let's go to document 5. And realistically on DBQ, you don't need document 6 and 7, so we'll just stop at 5 today. Ibn Khaldun, a Muslim scholar, so that's interesting. Okay.
Ah.
I know, right? It's interesting. It's like, yeah. Tricks aimed at making a profit.
I guess this is another one of those morality documents because it says, I mean, it kind of says that like you shouldn't put your like personal like feelings into trade. It's more like a job. I guess you
Yeah,
could put your like
it's like what you need to survive, but it's not like it affects your soul or affects your virtues and manliness. See, like
yeah.
that. So it's like they're kind of like they're saying that trading and merchant activity is detrimental to one's being and like moral ethics, but it is needed to survive. That's interesting.
I think what it's saying is it's somewhat similar to the Christian stuff as well, because it's like, except in the fact that it accepts some form of trade altogether. So it's saying that basically trade is good, but once again, um, that it's morally wrong to barter for these things because on the last sentence, which although they come under the heading of gambling,
Yeah.
so that would frown upon the act itself.
Yeah, they think that like, trying to get profits and stuff necessitates like, flattery, evasiveness, litigation, and just pretty much like bad stuff. So they're kind of like associating like trading of like it's a negative idea. So this is a Muslim person who believes that trading isn't morally correct, but it's still needed to survive, and it's just a very like bad method. It's like a very morally unjust method, I guess. So then, how would you guys like source this further? Like,
Well, I mean, I think at this time, Islam was the center head of education.
Yeah, 1300s. Yeah. I mean, that
So
time actually was like the Mongols though, because 1258 was when the Abbasids fell.
they were also very high in medicine and stuff.
Yeah, technologically, yeah.
So I guess they had their minds more in stuff like medicinal and educational stuff, like schools, rather than merchant stuff.
I see. Yeah, like So the time period, yeah, could be interesting, or like the political bias of this person, like the Muslim scholar, what he
No,
might have
Muslim
saw or what
scholar
he
would be
might have seen.
super biased.
Yeah,
It
super
doesn't say.
biased.
It doesn't
Yeah.
really say theologian like the last one, which would be more biased than this one. It's just a scholar, so he could really be anything.
Yeah.
Give me one
He could
second.
have bias from any source.
I'm back. Sorry. So yeah, basically, like this guy has a lot of bias on his idea of like trading. Although he is a Muslim, he probably because he's like a scholar, he has like he's more enlightened ways of thinking and like further intellect. So he might have seen like more about this like trading and like the detriment it could cause. He might also be like a philosopher or something. He might think differently because of what he knows. Antonio, what do you think?
Well, I mean, yeah, he was also a scholar too, so he would have had that kind of influence. But he was writing a book, Universal History, and so he would have probably just taken the Muslim aspect of it, the Muslim take on it. I think, I mean, to me, like what he says, his position is pretty similar to the last doc or the author of the last.
Yeah, this one.
I
Yeah,
could see
Thomas.
that somewhat to some level.
Yeah, to some level, because like it's both
And
both
not
like kind of
exactly the
talk about
same.
It's more
ethics and moral.
lenient than the last one, but it does have some of the same
Yeah, like morality and
basic
like the idea of
concepts.
justice. They both kind of like downplay like merchant activity and think of it as like something that's not like just for someone's like soul or like like their morals. But the only difference with this is like they kind of still realize that merchant activity is still like
It's
necessary in
necessary.
the economy.
Yeah.
Yeah, although it's just not good. It's not a good form of necessity. Okay, so that's pretty much it for that. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure document 6 and 7 would say how it's positive, since we had a lot of negatives
They're
here.
both.
So
Yeah,
you would
there are a
assume
lot
that
of
you would assume that there'd be positives to kind of balance it out.
Italian merchant,
You have a good essay.
blah blah blah.
So that would be from
Religious
an
paintings
actual
for
merchant.
sale.
Maybe it'll just flip itself on its nose and just give us all negatives.
Yeah, maybe. I'd be surprised. They're supposed to form two groups, but what would they be if they're all
No, they're
negative?
all one group. How would you
It's
write
like
something
just
like
like
that?
this group was negative and this group was even more negative. Like that's
Less
just
negative, more negative.
This group was so negative you don't want to hear about it.
yeah.
Chaotic negative,
I'm
neutral
not even gonna
negative.
cite them. Not even gonna source this document. It's too negative. College Board will get mad at me.
I think
But yeah,
pretty
so
much it's just both of them frown pretty strongly on the bartering and markup of prices and all
Yeah.
that other stuff.
Yeah.
But the main difference is that one of them is just entirely like no,
No,
merchant stuff
bad.
is bad,
completely
and the other
bad.
one is
bad.
like
Yeah.
it's alright.
Merchant
I
bad.
mean,
Mercant, bad.
if you have an overwhelming number of documents on one side, just like choose that side because there's more information about that side. I mean, unless you have like outside knowledge.
You,
Yeah,
you
you
do
would
still have to use 4 documents though.
I mean,
utilize.
there's like, what is it, 5 documents for no out of 7, I think.
Yeah, 5. Well, this one's I think
That document 2 is definitely a yes.
the Quran's like a yes and no because it's like if you do it
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fine. But if you do it bad, then you suck. So it's like
So it's
it's up
a
to you.
compare and
You
contrast.
could technically use that for a no.
You can use it for a yes also. It's both
Yeah.
technically. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's like,
it's a both.
it's dependent on how the person does trading. Because if they do it fairly, then it's good. But if they do it like trying to like get a benefit or telling lies or like conceited, then it's terrible.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
Well,
can
then
use that
again,
as a
though,
make it
counter
very
argument.
clear that
You
it's
could.
that trading is a moral, like it's
Real
on the
quick, I'm just gonna
line
like kind
of
of
morality.
real quick. I'm just gonna kind of read over like 6 and 7 to see what they say
no,
because they
but
might
the thing
be
though is that
more beneficial.
prompt is asking for comparison and contrast.
Yeah, of the two religions,
So
Christianity and Islam, how they're
toward their attitudes towards trade.
towards trading.
So
Yeah,
the different sides, how they're both negative in some aspects.
yeah.
That's
The
good
similarities
for
are that
similarities,
negative.
and the
Yeah,
contrast is that
Islam is less like they aren't like as how do you say
strict
it? Like, yeah,
or
they aren't as strict. Yeah, they aren't as
negative
rigid.
towards it.
They
They
kind of
say
realize
it
that it's
that
still like
people
important, but
need
they
to do
don't
it.
like. Yeah, it's like
Dang.
basically the only difference is like how intense this like distrust or hatred is. Because like Christians completely like they hate their guts. They hate the guts of merchants, but Muslims they like they're like okay, you guys are still part of the economy. They're still kind of useful, but we still don't like you because you're still kind of exploitative. So it's like that difference in intensity of how they dislike merchant activity. So 6 is kind of like this really quick. It's by an Italian person, so probably Christian.
Letters
It's
to and from.
yeah,
Tell
it's
me
from
about
3
Like,
sources, I think.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
3
there's
different
letters.
letters.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah,
So this is a letter. So the first one is a letter from a Italian merchant, and the second one's to a mother. Oh no, from a mother, and the third
they're
one's
all from Italian.
they're
Yeah.
from like Europe. So you know how God has granted you to acquire great riches in this world. He may be praised and you have been born. Interesting.
I think the first one's just saying if you don't find anything at a good cost, don't buy it.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah. There's no great demand. There should be about the mass artist. Yeah, so it's kind of contradicting what the beliefs of the Christians were, where it's like you don't want to sell stuff at a higher price because that's not cool. It's not fair. But this person's kind of saying, well, you don't have to buy it if it's not necessary.
Yeah.
So kind of, it's just like a juxtaposition of that belief. And the second one's more of just like God has given you the right to acquire riches, and it's saying like it's kind of showing how like religion is more tolerant to this, and how it's not that bad to have lots, and how you should be praised that he be praised. Interesting. So it's like this idea is like the perception of religion is that religion also doesn't really like it also accepts riches and also doesn't think of it as that bad because it can be used in a positive way.
Well, yeah, this one it says like it's good that you have the riches, but at the end there it says, "Crave not for all, for you already have enough to suffice you. You have enough.
Yeah, so
Don't
it's like you
keep
don't
going
need that
after more."
much, right?
Again,
Yeah,
with the greed and everything.
because like too much greed and like material wealth can corrupt you basically. And they're saying that you could still have riches in this world, and that's great, but you already have enough. And perhaps it depends on how you use this wealth. Because if you use it to like donate to peasants in Africa, or if you like I don't know build churches for God, that'd be fine. But if you're like saving it for yourself while I don't know doing stuff, then you'd not be doing a deed to yourself. You'd be doing a disservice to religion. And the third one is a letter on placing an order for English wool. So that's pretty interesting. Uh, in the name of God and prophet. Interesting. With God always before us, we will carry out your bid. So okay, that's interesting. So they're kind of thinking that like God has intervened in like the profit and trading of goods, and how it's not bad necessarily. Like it's saying like which in the name of God and prophet you would have us buy
Excuse
this
me.
wool. And with God always before us, we will carry out this bidding, and we will buy your wool, basically. So how does this like make sense? Like, why would this person think that God supports trading or profit? The thing is, like, you don't really know much about the person though, like what their motive is for all this wool.
Yeah.
So it could be like maybe they're building like rugs or carpets for like a church, or maybe they're like I don't know, building for the house or like
Maybe
clothing.
they
I don't
just
know.
want a quick
Or they're
buck.
making some monks.
Maybe he does, yeah. So the question is, why does this guy think that God supports profit or trading activity? And that's something that if you answer that, you basically have
Well,
sourced this document.
I mean, it's God and prophet. It's not really saying they're together. It's more just saying this and that.
Uh
I
huh.
think
Two
we're
different
kind of
things.
dodging like the
Sort of
first
like
part of this.
What's the first part?
Yeah. What is
You say you have writ to Venus to bid us 1,000
Huh.
ducats with which in the name of
Ducats.
then it goes off. I kind of don't know what ducats are.
I mean, it's probably the currency.
Yeah, it's probably their
Or remit is
currency.
probably just like the remit might be like giving
So
or like saving you money. Like
no, so what it's saying though, okay, it says you've given us 1,000 ducats, and we're going to, in the name of God and Prophet, we're gonna go buy this wool. With God before us, we'll do what you want. That's
Huh.
basically the summary, but
Hey,
rel-
wait, that's
religious.
capitalism. God hates
Wait.
capitalism.
Christian capitalist.
This is a sin.
You say you have writ to Venice to remit us. So what does remit mean then? Like
Yeah, what is remit?
It's just give.
What
Yeah,
or
probably.
give like as a gift or in payment. I just looked it up.
Give,
Ah.
cancel, or refrain from
Yeah, I thought
exacting or
it
No,
was
but
a debt
I
of
thought it was
punishment.
debt.
underneath the
no,
second
no,
one.
it's the other one. Yeah,
Oh well, yeah, send money.
send money or payment as.
Why are
So
there two
basically-
definitions?
Well, yeah, what the hell, bro? A remittance is a transfer of money. So yeah, that's like when you give people like money.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Maybe
bro,
they're getting a loan.
That one. That's
that
great. I think that's what it is. They gave him a loan. Go buy some cotton for us.
yeah,
We gave
like
you $1,000
to remit us to give us 1,000 ducats, in which we will use this money to buy profit and wool from God. Well, not with God's like
No.
bidding or like the approval of God or whatever. Just
I don't think it's a approval from God. I think it's a approval from the people they're loaning the money from.
No, I think it's more of a
This-
confirmation, right? They said we will carry out your bidding,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
a letter
yeah.
placing
Yeah,
an order.
buying wool.
So they got an order. This is their letter saying,
They
"Yeah,
got
we'll
money,
do that."
and they want to buy the wool, and they're justifying saying like we will buy this wool with the idea of profit and goodness from.
Okay,
This
so there's one
document
thing
is
that I
God.
am noticing. So
Mm.
I'm assuming that this is from like some religious people sending it to the merchants, and I guess one thing you could take away from this is that they are against um trade and mercantilism unless it suits their needs. And that sort of like goes along with the current trend at the time with giving indulgences, which was a big thing with the church, a big corrupt type thing. So that could have some sort of link to this.
Wasn't there like a whole Catholic and Protestant Reformation?
We
Or did that come later?
we talked about that.
that was later, I would assume.
This is
Yeah, that
like
was
1500s,
after
so
already.
yeah, that's not
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, the Protestant
That's not
Reformation was
yet.
until 1521.
1450s.
Took
No,
a
but
while.
they were giving
Yeah.
indulgences like all the way through from like as soon as the 1000s, I believe.
The
or
14th
maybe before
century
that.
is like 1300s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Black Death.
So
time.
that was something I wanted
Yeah,
to
Black
touch on
Death
during
times.
this time.
Yeah, 3 kappas and a sheep. Disinherited from my dad.
So, yeah, but I did want to touch on the indulgences thing.
Yeah, that would
sometime
be
it-
good.
Yeah.
It could be like a sourcing
The
type thing
Mhm.
from the church, because it's sort of ironic where they're like, you should not do trade, but then they're also like, give us some money so your sins are forgiven.
Yeah.
I think that was more around what was it? King Henry the 7th?
I mean, it was a
Is that his
long
name?
period of time.
Like
It
the-
was a very long time.
the one with the
Yeah.
wives.
Yeah, the one with all the wives.
That was
And,
Henry
like,
VIII. That was in the 1590s or something.
Yeah, the
Those
leaky
those
leg.
two royalty people before Queen Elizabeth I.
Yeah,
That's a while off.
he was the one who started monetizing churches and stuff.
Yeah, and that was like the cause of. It was also just like that kind of corruption. In the
Yeah.
sort. So, yeah, this is kind of ironic because it's like you're saying how like the profit and the bidding of God, well, not bidding of God, but like the bidding of buying this wool is good and like wholesome, but also how Christianity also kind of despises this type of like trading activity. So it's kind of contradictory, It's like it's good and bad. It kind of goes back to the document too of like but just like the Quran though, where it's like depends on how you do the transaction, it can be blessed or obliterated, or like how in document I think it was like 3 years. No, yeah, 3, where it's like it's no, this is like mostly just completely bad. Never mind. Document 4. Let's see. I think that's more just like Yeah, all these are kind of just like really negative. They just kind of
Yeah.
jaded perception of how merchant activities is terrible.
Wait,
How
so what's document 7 say?
document
Yeah, we
7.
need to read that one.
Ooh.
The content of the document.
Oh my, amazing. Saw Mehmed and Hasi Mehmed.
Oh, Mehmed.
Mehmed.
Different one.
Ah, the
Mehmed the second was
1600s.
the Ottoman.
Yes, this is Ottoman people. Whenever cotton yarn comes to tone, the aforementioned arrives, pays an extra price, and takes it from its owner. The other weavers remain deprived of cotton.
Ooh, private.
We do not agree to this. The aforementioned was warned empathetically when cotton yarn comes, one should not buy it alone, but rather it should be distributed among all. Whereupon the aforementioned took it upon himself to behave in the manner said.
Oh, there's a little disagreement. Little lover's quarrel.
Whoa.
Okay, I
You
don't.
have to say it like
I didn't say that.
a lower squirrel.
I want to buy this wool, but I don't want to distribute it. Too bad. Allah says you have to.
Yeah, I know, right? The aforementioned has now acted contrary to the old custom, and we do not agree to this. The aforementioned was warned. Huh. So basically, yeah, they're trying to like spin religion into like this like where it's like it's you should do trading and merchant activity if only if it's ethical or completely
Hey,
like just.
wait a second. This reminds me of someone with the name of Karl Marx.
Communism. I know, like communism. Wait a second. Distributing the means of yarn. Where have I heard that
The
before?
means of production, perhaps.
The means of
I don't know.
production.
It
Among the
doesn't
people,
matter
no
if
way.
you bought it. We all bought it, so it's
Yeah,
ours.
we all bought it. It's all ours.
It's all
Ours.
ours.
Take the eye out of society.
Yeah, I mean, interesting.
Yeah,
So,
It's definitely
okay.
very negative towards trade. I mean, well, I guess not very negative because there is a line. It would be focused around you bought it yourself and it was immoral, so it's bad.
well,
But
they're
if it was the whole town doing it, it would have been good and it would have been fair for everyone.
they're in the 16th they're in the
1600s,
17th
yeah.
century, so industrialization is kind of revving up. It's revving up, and the prices of cotton is kind of going down. You know?
Well, I mean the
I think you're a little bit ahead
A-
of yourself there.
yeah,
A
Yeah, I
little
think
bit
I'm a
off.
little ahead of
15
myself.
50s,
I'm a little
This is the
ahead of
14
myself.
and 1500s. This is before
No,
like
no,
American.
that's practices in the 15th and 16th
This is like Ottoman
centuries.
Empire, boy. It's like
Yeah, this
it's
is
like
this
yeah,
is
And
Ottoman
this-
Empire, land-based gunpowder.
The Ottoman Empire was like really behind in technology too. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't know
that's
what
right.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Man, I must be on something today.
But I mean, yeah, it's like cotton prices are well, they're still pretty. The demand is still pretty high,
Yeah.
also. Basically, this document is saying that like being so this is part of like okay, so the source is an Islamic court decision, so judicial action. Islamic also suggests religion of Islam, of course.
No way.
I don't know, bro. Okay,
Oh,
Representative
he paid it for an
Muslims
extra price. That's a sin. That's a sin.
Yeah. So basically, these guys, these Islamic boys, they're kind of deciding that religion doesn't prohibit trading; it's still necessary, but you should do it justly and fairly to benefit the whole instead of yourself. So
Yeah.
it's similar to like Christianity, where it's like merchant activity is bad if you do it for your own benefit, like selfish greed. But if you do it for other people, that's their exception. There's a nuance here, where it's like if you help others or you do it for the good of the whole, then it's okay. Whereas Christianity is like no, it's bad because it's bad. Like this is kind of what's saying.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of your argument here. Basically, your two groups would be they both are similar in the way that they both they look down upon merchant activity because it could corrupt people and also because it could corrupt their values and virtue. But Muslims are different because they think that merchant activity can't always be that bad, and that if you do it in the right way where it's just and fair, it's more of a blessing than a curse.
I feel like these religions read too much of the Communist Manifesto.
I know.
And
Or maybe the Communist Manifesto read too much from religion.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Just like Karl Marx reads upon the Quran, like, oh yes, this
Yes, I
Yeah,
put
they
this one
do.
into my
I'm
mind.
just imagining him with it in front of him, like, yes, yes, finally.
They do just have
Yeah.
one
Finally,
person.
somebody
Oh my.
on my side.
Numbers
Somebody
and
sees the
numbers written in
problems
the-
with these industrial societies.
I bet Karl Marx
Numbers
like this
written.
one source. I was just like, yes,
Yes.
it's the
Yeah.
ideology.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Come on.
Let's
Come
make
Come on, Engels,
let's
let's do
make
it,
a
Engels.
whole manifesto, but based off this one document.
Heroes just one
Yeah,
and
it's
a
just
half
based on this one document I sourced by an Ottoman official in the 15th and 16th centuries. Yeah, honestly, but I think we've got it though. So pretty much,
Yeah.
these documents are just they all have their own way negative like ideas of merchant activity, but the Islamics are more loose because they think that it can still be used in a as a weapon of power or like for benefit. Whereas the Christians think it's just a complete like curse. It's just bad. It's tainted, So that's pretty much it. I mean, I think that's pretty much
How
the
would we
basis of the documents.
how would we get outside evidence though?
Well, we can talk about the sales of indulgences in the Catholic Church, how that was corrupt, and how although they viewed merchant activity as bad, they still were kind of ironic in a way that they still had monetary value and still had their own personal greed for expanding the power of the church or whatever. And I mean, they could say that it was justified because religion and stuff. Still, it's like you're still ripping off people for their goods. And also like the
Yeah.
Muslims, you could talk about how Muslim trade routes and stuff, how merchants would well, interestingly, like how you could talk about like how like monetary interaction within like Indian Ocean trade routes, how that could benefit because it's units 1 and 2, so you could talk about that definitely. And you
Yeah.
talk like how that stuff like helped like make cities sprawl or like how it made like empires tick because of like economic growth and how like that kind of contributed to the Islamic idea that like merchant activity itself isn't good, but if you do it in the right way where it benefits the whole of like an empire or people, then it's good. It's like that could also kind of be intertwined.
I don't
But-
know. A good one to reference is probably Fall of Rome.
Interesting. Why do you say that?
I don't know because Romans were Christians.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think a better way to
Connected
say it
some
would
way to the
be
prompt, man.
fall of Rome because of the split that happened. Like there could be
Yeah.
some kind of reference there because Orthodox and Catholic got split between the Byzantines and everything else.
It's always really
West.
good to reference Fall of Rome. There's always something good to say about it.
You're
Always
talking
something to
about
say
the
about it.
World War II.
Germanic
You can always
weapons.
talk about World War.
Oh yes, the benefits of World War II. Of course.
And then you could relate it to Fall of Rome. Yeah,
How
it's
are they similar then?
because they both had people die. See,
So
there's a
bubonic plague,
similarity.
then. That also be why people die.
Yeah, they also had Roman names. Checkmate.
They also had Rome.
They had
Roman
Roman.
had slaves. They
Where
had
do you think the name Adam came from?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty.
Or
I'm glad-
Atom? Yeah,
Atoma.
checkmate. Oh, what's this? Atom bomb?
Adam and Eve bomb.
See, what did I tell you? Everything could be related. I mean, no. Everything could be related to the fall of Rome.
Everything can be related. It's all like it's all a conspiracy theory.
Everything related.
Everything is
multiple
just based
universes.
around the
Everything dates
Illuminati.
back to the fall of Rome.
The fall of Rome.
It's a
But yeah,
domino effect.
okay. So
Yeah.
I mean, when you want to mention outside documents, so like evidence, you want to make sure it connects to the prompt. So if you're gonna argue like the fall of Rome, you gotta somehow tie it into like Christianity and how that had like an influence on merchants and stuff.
Romans killed Jesus.
Okay, then
Whoa.
yeah, they did, but like the sacking of Rome by like the barbarians, that's interesting.
Barbarian.
Yeah.
Non-Roman.
I mean,
Maybe- Mm.
the holy city, Jerusalem. Excuse
Jerusalem.
me, Jerusalem. Gosh,
Drew.
darn it! You messed me up, but whatever. That was what is it? Roman city.
Yeah, it
Rome-
was. Oh, like,
Romans
yeah,
were
it was
all over
there.
that.
Under the
Actually,
control.
well, wasn't it like under like Islamic control? But then
I
like they
mean,
had to fight the Crusades to get
that-
control.
That's also a reason why, like, what's his name referenced Cicero in that one statement.
Yeah, that one dude, whoever that was.
See, what am I telling you? It's all
The
related.
Reginald
Man.
boy.
Everything is related.
Hmm. This is all about fall of Rome. I agree. we need to. This
I
is the
think
like,
this
college
is
board of
slowly
all.
turning from a DBQ to a conspiracy theory.
I agree. This is becoming.
See-
We're going too deep into this.
They also took the cross to Jerusalem.
Yeah, the pilgrimage to Jerusalem,
Hmm.
the cross. Interesting. And this was in the crusading times, boys.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's all making sense now. It's all about
I'm glad. Wow,
it's all
really
about
is
the
all
fall of
about Rome.
Rome. Retribution of the fall of Rome by conquering Jerusalem. Okay, so you guys know what the groups are, and then I guess for outside evidence, you could do like whatever works that connects to the thesis prompt.
Easy. Follow Rome. It connects to everything. It's really a Joker card of connections.
Rome is just ultimate evidence source. Supreme.
I mean, it really is. You can connect the Tokugawa shogunate to Fall of Rome. They have many similarities.
Yeah, like how-
Improper whatchamacallit leadership leads to another reformation.
Much of a reformation, the fall of Rome, but
It was
I don't know if I
split.
know.
it's more of a
It-
crack. It was like
Yeah, it's more of a crack. It's a big crack.
It's just like this fragment.
It's a really big crack. But hey, just
what does
add a
the
holy
empire
to
have?
it. It's the Holy Roman Empire now.
Never died.
no,
They're never holy. They're not even
that's what
holy.
it
They're
was
not even
before.
Roman. They're German people.
Bringing it back, baby.
Oh yeah, good time. It's like a bunch of like wannabe Romans, but they're all just like German people in a confederation of states.
They really talk about the Holy Roman Empire and the units that we did.
There's
They
too
kind of
many of them.
Probably not until like Euro.
They're not that important though.
They're like
They're just
ants.
too like
I
they're
think
just
that's such
too
a weird
like
thing. They're not that
they're
important.
like too
They
diluted.
were
They're
like
not
Yeah.
a huge thing. Like they took up like half of Europe was taken up by the Holy Roman Empire. Like they had everything in Germany in that area,
in parts of
that
France
whole
too, in
We
Italy.
just never talk
that
about it
whole
though.
area, and then they
Yeah.
extended down into Italy as well, and actually had Rome.
But they never
Well, I
really had much
mean-
power though, because they're all just like confederation
Yeah,
of
yeah.
states. They weren't like nationalistic, like France or Prussia or whatever, where they're like big states, big boys under centralized control. They were like I don't know, like feudalism basically.
Some
Well, but
states
that was
wanted to
sort of-
be the Holy Roman Empire, so they were kind of at odds with each other all the time. The princes couldn't agree on anything, so they stayed split for a long time.
But realistically,
True,
there's
they
like an
did have a
emperor
lot
though
of
that controlled it all.
problems between them.
But yeah, there's too much division of power to where it wasn't like a very well functioning empire. It was more fragmented than unified, and it wasn't even Roman. It was just German and freaking.
I mean, they did
Indo-European.
have Rome. They were in that area.
They
It
were
was
in
just
Rome,
mainly
yeah.
Germany.
But they weren't like pure Romans though. They're just
Thank God they didn't try to keep the bloodline pure like Spain.
oh yeah, that was like inbreeding.
Oh my gosh, that is
That
no.
reminds me of like
P heart.
where it's like European countries that just interbreeding their royal lineages to keep going. Oh boy, and then Henry VIII is just like, give me more wives,
I think it was the 7th.
and that's also ironic though because like he wanted more wives and he wanted like a male heir, but he never got that.
Yeah, it was his
He
fault, though.
he had one, but then he died.
Yeah, he died. Yeah, so like he never really fully got like
Yeah,
it
I
didn't
mean,
really happen for him.
He got it, but it was like a halfway between.
yeah.
He never really
Yeah.
got. He never got the full way.
Must suck to be him. Like
And I think he also had a condition where like having sex was like really painful for him.
Eight
Ooh, that's
lives.
wait,
rough.
wasn't
Or no,
like-
6 lives?
wait, was that King Louis or something?
I think that was King Henry VII,
Huh.
the same one.
I heard about that though. I heard about that somewhere. I was like, no, I
Yeah,
think it was
mi-
King Louis though, because I remember like watching an oversimplified video and it was like, it's like Marie Antoinette or whatever. It was like about the French Revolution, something like that. But yeah, it's
King
like they like
Henry
it hurt one
VII
day.
had it.
I can't imagine having that though, like as a disease.
And being the king.
Genital pain. Being the king.
I need to have a male hair, but it's so painful.
Painful. They didn't know what a sperm donor was at the time. Anyways. So yeah, I think we've got a good grasp on this document. So as for homework, if you want to do it, just try writing an essay on this and seeing if you can make it happen because you know the documents now and you have a relative idea what to do. So that's pretty much it for me. I mean, that's pretty
Okay.
straightforward. For units one,
It's a jest, but I only remember the Holy Roman Empire. I think I forgot
Yeah.
everything in there.
just use it as outside evidence. The Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah, but I forgot. I think I can't remember anything that was in there, except that everything was very negative towards merchants.
Yeah, everything's like really negative to merchant activity except for Muslims, which are kind of like it could be a blessing and a curse depending on how it's used.
Yeah,
So that's interesting.
it's a fine line, but whatever. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, that's it for me. I mean, you guys are free to
Yeah.
go. 'cause
I
I'm
mean,
done.
it's
Thanks for
been
coming,
2 hours,
guys.
so I think it's a good
Like,
time.
I had a
Yeah.
good time talking to people.
About